Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something crucial, controlling costs. But listen, this isn't about just tracking expenses. No, we're going to build a full-on strategic framework, the kind a top consultant uses to put you in the driver's seat of your project's financial future. Okay, let's start with this. This quote right here from the PMBOK guide, it's everything. The key is the management of the approved cost baseline. See, it's not about just watching money. Anyone can do that. It's about actively managing against a plan. It's the difference between being a passenger just along for the ride and actually grabbing the steering wheel. So, here's the roadmap for today. First, we'll nail down the strategy. Then, we'll build our dashboard. After that, we dive into the really cool stuff, measuring our past performance with something called EVM. From there, we'll actually forecast the future. And the best part? We'll turn all that data into real, informed decisions. Let's jump in. All right, first things first, we have to get our heads in the right space. So many people think cost control is just, accounting, tracking receipts. That's a huge mistake. It's not passive. It's an active, core leadership function. It's about having your finger on the financial pulse of your project so you can make those smart, strategic calls that actually steer it to success. And look, the official definition backs this up completely. The keywords: monitoring and managing. It's this constant loop, right? You monitor how you're doing, you analyze what the numbers are telling you, and then you manage the changes to get back on track. The whole point is to protect that cost baseline. Think of it as the single source of truth for your project's money. Okay, section 2, time to build our financial dashboard. A top consultant would never walk into a meeting without their data, and neither should you. Without this stuff, you're just flying blind. You're making decisions based on a gut feeling, and let me tell you, that's a quick way to get into trouble. So, what goes into this dashboard? Think of it like 4 key ingredients. First, you've got your project management plan. This is where your cost baseline lives. That's our target. Next, your funding requirements. Basically, when is the money actually showing up? Then, and this is crucial, the work performance data. This is the raw, unfiltered truth from the ground about what you've actually spent. And last, you've got your organizational process assets, which is just a fancy way of saying the company's rules, tools, and templates you have to use. Okay, our dashboard is built. Now it's time to fire up the engine. This is where the magic happens. We're going to use this really powerful technique called Earned Value Management, or EVM for short. It's going to give us a single, clear picture of our scope, schedule, and costs all at once. First up, let's look at where we stand right now. Okay, first concept, planned value, or PV. Super simple. This is just, where did we plan to be today? Let's say your project budget is $100,000, and by today, you were supposed to have half the work done. Well, your planned value is $50,000. It's the value of the work you should have done by now. Next up, earned value, or EV. Now, this one is the most important and honestly the one people get tripped up on. It asks a simple question: what's the value of the work we've actually finished? So in our example, if you've only completed 40% of the total project, your earned value is $40,000. It doesn't matter how much money you spent to get there or how long it took. The value of the finished work is $40,000. That's it. And the last piece of the puzzle is the easiest one, actual cost, or AC. This is literally just how much money have you spent so far. If your accounting team says you've burned through $60,000, then your AC is $60,000. Simple as that. And just like that, with those 3 little numbers, PV, EV, and AC, we can now answer that one question every single stakeholder asks. So, how's it really going? We can finally move past those vague answers like, oh, we're making progress, and give them a precise, data-backed diagnosis of the project's health. This is where it all clicks into place. This table turns those numbers into a story you can actually read. For example, look at that over budget line. If your actual cost is bigger than your earned value, well, that means you've spent more money than the work you finished is actually worth. It's the textbook definition of being over budget. No arguing with that. It's just facts. And we can get even more precise with these 4 key formulas. Now, the variances are great. They give you the raw dollar amounts. But the indices, that's where the real strategic gold is. I want you to focus on the Cost Performance Index, CPI. It is, without a doubt, the most critical EVM metric. If your CPI is 0.8, what does that mean? It means for every single dollar you spend, you're only getting 80 cents of work done. Think about that. For every $1 million your project spends, you are literally setting $200,000 on fire. That's the kind of efficiency problem that will absolutely torpedo a project if you don't jump on it immediately. Okay, so knowing where we are is great, But real leadership, it's about using that info to see the future. So now we're going to shift gears from looking backward to forecasting forward. This is how you spot an iceberg long before it's right in front of the ship. The big number we're trying to predict is the estimate at completion, or EAC. It's our new best guess for the project's final price tag. And you've got a few ways to calculate it. The first one is, well, it's pretty optimistic. It basically assumes your past issues were a fluke and everything's going to be perfect from here on out. The second one, using your current CPI, is usually more realistic. It says, hey, the way we've been performing is probably the way we'll keep performing. The third one's for when you know your schedule problems are directly driving up costs. But here's the key takeaway. Picking the right formula isn't just math. It's a judgment call. It's based on you, the leader, knowing your project inside and out. All right, now for my favorite metric. I call it the gut check metric, the Total Complete Performance Index, or TCPI. This thing is brutal. It tells you the exact performance you have to achieve on all the remaining work to hit your budget. So let's say your performance so far, your CPI, is a dismal 0.8, but the TCPI comes back as 1.2. This metric is basically screaming in your face that to have any hope of finishing on budget, you suddenly need to become 20% more efficient than you originally planned. It's a stark mathematical reality check. Okay, let's pull all of these threads together. Because all this analysis, every variance, every index, every forecast, it's completely useless if it doesn't lead to action. The whole point of the data is to drive decisions. So let's look at the actual outputs of this whole process. This right here, these are the levers of control. Our number crunching creates work performance information. That's the story behind the data. It spits out cost forecasts, so you can go to your stakeholders and tell them what's coming. But the most important thing it does? It builds you a bulletproof, data-driven case for a change request. This is how you formally ask for more time, more money, or to change the scope to get the project back into the green. So, there you have it. We've gone from high-level strategy to building the dashboard to deep analysis and forecasting. And it all boils down to this one final point. Look, at the end of the day, the goal of all of this, every formula, every chart, is to do one thing: empower you to make an informed decision. It's about getting out of reactive firefighting mode and into proactive, strategic leadership. Because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? The numbers tell you the story, but they don't make the decision for you. This whole framework, it gives you the clarity to see the problem and the credibility to act on it. It transforms you from just a scorekeeper into the actual driver of your project's success. So the final question is simple. You have the framework. You have the data. You can see the future. What action are you going to take?